Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion. Your host, the Hut, and welcome back to the Baseball Hut. And hopefully, you like this video. Hit that subscribe button. We're back here at the Baseball Hut, and we're one day away from the winter meetings. As I sit here, my pad, my home, this new hut, I got the Christmas tree. I got the Christmas tree on the side here. So the Mets going into the winter meetings, they have a lot of holes still. They need at least two outfielders. Need a lot of pitching. They need their closer back. And this Mets need a lot of work. You know, we know that they traded Brandon Nimmo for Marcus Semien. That's put a gaping hole in the middle of the lineup. Although Semien fills a hole at second base, that is an improvement in terms of production out of that position. When you have three or four guys playing one position, you don't have a second baseman. You don't have a guy that's going to man that spot. And that's what we have there at second base right now is a guy that can play every day. He is considered a leader. They called him captain there in Texas. It's surprising that they traded him just due to the fact of his reputation, but he is a guy that I guess he was getting close. I don't know if he was getting close to 10-5 with them, but he's been there for quite a few years. I think he was getting close to that fifth year. I don't think they wanted to reach that fifth year with him. But he is a different kind of dynamic in this clubhouse, and you would hope that there'd be a little more toughness with this team. But one thing that we know is this team is very soft, and has been soft for a very long time, since 2019. And one of the things they need to do is bring in guys that are good in the clubhouse. Like I've been saying, I didn't think the Met clubhouse was that bad, okay? I thought that they were soft. That's the best way to describe this clubhouse. The Met clubhouse has been a very soft sort of underbelly of this club. They're great guys. They're good players, but they're soft. And we love Brandon Nimmo. He's one of my favorites. He's I don't know what's going to happen now with him in the organization moving forward. But the whole idea that he was a problem, it wasn't a problem per se, but when you have players on your team for a long time, you fall in love with them. And you sort of lose your objectivity on what they're able to do. He's not an all-star player. He has not been in the all-star game. He hasn't gotten really any MVP votes as far as I know in his career. We know that Semien has come in third 3 times in the American League in terms of MVP. 1 year with the A's, 1 year with the Blue Jays when he was there that 1 year, and the first year when he was with the Rangers. Or the second year, 2023. So, or the third, it doesn't matter, one of those years. But he's a player that we're going to see how he is at age 35. 35 is different than it was, say, 20 years ago. And we're going to talk about in this live stream also is we're going to have the Hall of Fame voting tomorrow. We got quite a list of older players that are going to possibly get in tomorrow. Just say hello to the chat. Hello, Fast Nickel, 1965. We're going to have we could have a plethora of New York Mets and New York players going in this year. We could have some very big players, big names on this ballot going in tomorrow. Barry Bonds is up. I got a whole bunch of players. Let me get into it, but we'll get into the Mets as well. This is the Baseball Hut. This is not so much, purely baseball and the Mets, but also Hall of Fame and the other teams. And, of course, we can't forget our favorite topic, WFAN, which I have done a lot of work on over the last week or so on the Baseball Hut 3. Now, I have something new, I guess, on my YouTube channel to where if you go into different websites, there is one, Home Depot. So if you're into building stuff, and I know all you people that are in the stream are mostly guys, go in there. If you buy something, I get a commission. It's something new. and it's only something very short. It's not going to last on over the next 2-3 weeks until Christmas. So I get a little commission just on the side. But we're going to have the winter meetings this week, starting tomorrow. I'll do a live stream tomorrow talking about what the Mets are doing, and then Monday is the first day of the winter meetings, and we'll see if we get a little more activity than we did last year. The big story last year, as you know, during the winter meetings was Juan Soto signed that Sunday, and that was an enormous show for your hosts and really for everybody on YouTube. So that's what happened last year. Now this year we have plenty of Met players that are on the market that could be back, could not be back. Edwin Diaz is out there, obviously, and Pete Alonso is out there, obviously, and we will see if the Mets bring them back. I would like to see them both come back, but then at the same time, let's be very honest here. This team has been a disappointment as a group. Diaz and Alonso have been part of this group since 2019. And we know that 2019, really one person was responsible for the Mets not making postseason. That's Edwin Diaz. We can't sort of forget that, you know. Hello, Jimmy. How you doing? Jimmy Chiavo, 1598. How you doing? Don't be shy in the chat. Say hello. Always, I'm very willing to talk to people in the chat. So don't be shy. We're going to have plenty of lives. We're going to have plenty of time to talk about what the Mets plan on doing. Obviously, we want to see these guys back, but at a certain price. Now, it seems that Pete Alonso again's had a very difficult time getting a lengthy contract. That's been the rumor the last couple of days, that he's having a very difficult time getting the kind of years that he wants from any team, not just the Mets, but any team. So, yeah, that's his problem, you know. It's a shame that he's just basically one-dimensional player. He's got tremendous power. He's got a very good chance moving on to hit 500 home runs. But he's getting to a point where he's not really a position player on the field too much. He's going to be playing first too much long, is what I'm trying to say. And we're going to see. And eventually he's going to be a DH. Jimmy says, I've been liking Joe Ryan, the more I watch him. I don't think he's going to get moved because they said that the Mets were interested in him. Interesting. But it doesn't seem like that any of the Twins are getting moved. I would say this. I would stay as far away from Byron Buxton as possible. Not because he's not a talented player, but because he was so adamant about not wanting to get traded from Minnesota a few months ago. And he's a guy that's sort of, if you want to stay at a small market, New York is going to eat you up. You know, New York he's going to eat you up. And he's got sort of a history of always getting hurt. And when he's not hurt, he struggles. Now, the last few years, he hasn't struggled offensively. But that's the one thing to keep in mind about is that he is a guy that is always hurting. And he's making a lot of money. I would stay away from him. I'd rather go with bringing back Harrison Bader to play center field with Tyrone Taylor, and then bring in Carson Benz. And, of course, Carson Benz, he went to college, and he went to the great college of Oklahoma State. And he is flown through the Mets system. After he gave up being a pitcher, he's been great in the minor leagues. We got some new people about this in the chat. Hello, you sure about that? And he said, are you sure about that? I don't know about that. You sure about that, my man? One of the great subscribers here to the Baseball Hut. How you doing, buddy? How you doing? And, of course, like this video and subscribe. I don't have reading glasses. I should wear them. Fenton 100, how are you? Hi, how are you? See what he's got. Agreed, no tongue for Ryan. Well, you know what? Two thongs don't make a right. I would say about Jonah Tong, I would move him. I wouldn't move him for Joe Ryan. Joe Ryan is at best, a number 4 starter. That's my opinion. John Carlson, 89-34, or 24, excuse me. Need a number 1 starting pitcher and another number 2, exactly. Now, I put in the title of this video, Tarik Skubal. It seems that people around the league are feeling that he's going to get traded. And the Mets have to do whatever they can to move him. You move him for Jonah Tong, you move him for Bransford, but you hold. I mean, the one guy you hold on to is Nolan McLean and Benj, and everybody else is up for grabs. I think that at some point, Jeb Williams is probably going to be gone. Hello, KM. How you doing, KMJ? How you doing? 7707. How you doing, Kevin? I would ask people in the chat, please let me know where you're hailing from, where you're from. I used to be from Queens. Now I'm out on Long Island. That's where I'm now at. So just let me know where you are in the chat. Jimmy Chavo says, what do you think about Valdez? I want to stay as far away from him as possible. Well, he has been an ace. The Mets seem to be very interested in him. David Stearns, he likes the familiarity of these of players that he knows. Okay, he knows this player. He's familiar with him. And I like Framber Valdez a lot. He's left-handed. It's only going to cost you money. He's been very durable for many years. And there's no reason not to bring him in here. Let me read a couple of places where people are. KMJ, well, he didn't say anything. He didn't tell you where he was from. It's mad with you, Kevin. John Carlson says Rockland County. Fenson 100 says he's from Long Island, but now he's in North Carolina. Let's see here. Freedom Boom 718 says Mets looking at Pedro Rivera. Rivera, who? Who's that? Who is that? Don't know who that is. If I have to look him up, don't make me look this guy up. I got everything set up here nicely. Let me see. Make me go and look for this guy. He doesn't exist. Find where you are. There is no Pedro Rivera. Thank you. Oh, don't waste the HUD's time here, bub. Don't waste my time. But yeah, so we have a lot of, and I expect Jeff McNeil to get traded this week. And I know he doesn't want to leave, but too bad. Got to go. He has a lot of value. It'll be interesting to see what kind of value the Mets get for him. The value for him is that one, he could play multiple positions. I don't think he's a center fielder. I think I did not like him in center field. I thought he was terrible out there. I thought he was terrible in center field. He's fine in left field. He's fine in right field, but he's not a center fielder. I thought the Mets treat him very poorly. And there's a big reason why he struggled offensively. Plus the blood clot in his arm. Master of Coin XRP. Hello, Hut. The master is in the house. That's right. The master of my domain. Well, that's a different story for another day. But yes, we are here. John Carlson says 83, 89. Well, let me see. John Carlson says Dream is Skubal and Valdez. Somebody mentioned Michael King. I'd stay away from Michael King. I think I mean either one of them is fine, Skubal or Valdez. Quite frankly, you don't need all these. Let's have a lot of lefties in this rotation. And if you get Skubal, you're gonna transform this rotation. I watched a clip. Who was talking? I think it was Buster Only. Buster Only said that he will transform. I agree with him. He'll transform your team from, the Baltimore Orioles are in on the big pitchers, I would think. Well, we'll see. I'll believe that when I see it. Uh, but the Mets need the first thing they need to do is find a big pitcher. Okay, if it's Skubal, fine. The Mets have plenty of players in their farm system that would entice the Tigers, and obviously the Tigers still want to win because they went to postseason. They don't want to take a step back. They want to at least go to their fans and say, "Look, we know we lost our best pitcher, but we brought in some very good talent. So part of this deal would have to be you'd have to part with David Peterson because Peterson's on the last year of his contract. He's a guy that has been an all-star. I think he kind of fizzled out, the last few months because he hadn't really pitched all that much over the last few years. And I think he just kind of ran out of gas. So you could sort of say, look, he's gonna be a much better situation, where he's not gonna be so tired. I would say this, and I'm happy to note this is I'm very happy the Mets got rid of the pitching coach. I talked about that a lot. And we'll see how Justin Willard is as a pitching coach. He had done an excellent job with the Red Sox in terms of getting those kids to throw strikes. And that is the number one problem that's been here with the Mets pitching staff for the last several years since he's been here is throwing strikes and the ability to get ahead in the count. And the Mets pitching has struggled enormously doing that. So we'll see. That is the most important coach that the Mets have on their staff. More important than these hitting coaches, more important than the life coach or the job coach, or the bullpen coach, obviously, or the assistant to the assistant around secretary. The most important guy is the pitching coach. And I'm very happy they recognize that. Now, this does, of course, put Mendoza on notice, and I'm still very concerned about who's in place in case there's a problem with Mendoza. Master of CoinXRP says, I think the next signing from the Mets is Bellinger. It's another hedge signing, just like Williams with Bellinger is in our back pocket. Stearns can look at all player options because of Belly. Well, he is a very interesting player. Interesting. And Devin Williams is I'm okay with him as the closer, but he can be shaky. But most of the relievers are shaky. Let's be honest. Most relievers are shaky. And he is a guy that has had some bad moments. We all know about the one bad moment with Alonso. And it took him a long time to recover from that. I think that's a big reason why he pitched so poorly last year for the Yankees. And I also think there's familiarity with the player because Stearns knows him well, developed him, got him to the majors, got him. But people don't maybe not be aware of this. He won the Rookie of the Year, I believe, in 2020. So this is a guy that has hardware that he can speak of about quality work. So, being a very good closer, he's been a very good player. But keep in mind, he's shaky. Most relievers are shaky. If you go to Baseball Reference, other than Mariano Rivera, they're all kind of in the same network. John Franco's work is very similar to Billy Wagner's work. Billy Wagner's work is very similar to Bruce Sutter to Lee Smith, Trevor Hoffman. They're all kind of in the same bubble. I would say this: if Billy Wagner is in the Hall of Fame as the first lefty reliever in Major League Baseball, no one's talked about that. I've looked. I don't remember any other lefty who's been a reliever getting into the Hall of Fame as a closer. He's the first. But I would think that John Franco is probably a Hall of Famer too. Just based on the fact he's got more saves than him. He's got the most saves by any lefty. And he was closer for a long time for two teams. And he did get to the World Series as, I guess, a setup man. But he pitched a long time, just as an aside. But, this week, the things to look forward to. They're going to need another outfielder. Keep an eye on an outfielder. Either be Tucker, either be Bellinger, probably most likely Bellinger. I'm not too enamored with giving Tucker 10 years. I did not like that. I don't like that idea. Bellinger's a different story. And Bellinger's played in the big markets now. He's played in Los Angeles, Chicago with the Yankees. He can handle it. Now, about him is his health, whether he can stay healthy moving forward in his career. He had an injury with the shoulder for many, many years. Well, thank you, Fenton 100. Thank you for coming. But I don't remember you around here before. But thank you. Thank you for showing up. Welcome to the HUD. Always be welcome here to leave comments on videos. Somebody wrote to me the other day, I think it was just last night, on the Baseball HUD 2, complaining that I block people, which I admit that I do. But I have 3 criteria, just so you know. First criteria is you can't attack me personally and think I'm not going to respond. Instead of discussing what I'm talking about, you attack me. That doesn't go well. Secondly, you can't have a childish picture, a childish avatar, and act like a complete total lunatic, and think that I'm going to have any kind of discussion when you get sent off pretty quickly. The Phantom Zone. Any cartoon characters, any comic characters, get the boot. And third, I don't really like people that constantly don't shut up. What I mean is that they I do a video for 10 minutes and they write 5 or 6 different comments. 5 or 6 different comments and write to people. Let's see. Twist Your Dream says Will Castro would be great bench depth. Don't worry about the bench. The bench will take care of itself. Excuse me. Hold on, I need a drink. Look. The biggest problem with the Mets is they need a better everyday lineup. So tough with the straw, HUD. But don't worry about the bench. That's the last thing I'm worried about right now. Met bench is going to be. I will say this: the Met bench was not good last year. It was really lousy. That's the one thing. The 2 years that we've had Stearns here, the bench has been lousy. What saved him is guys like Vientos and Beatty and some of the younger guys that they've helped. But you need a better bench here. That's the one thing that's been a complete a disaster. NYC Buzz 22 says, "What's up, HUD? You're up. You're at the plate." Let's see here. Club Fida, I guess I'm saying his name right. 6604 says, "Mets need Schwarber." He doesn't really fit as a player here because you can't play him in the outfield, and you're going to play him exclusively as a DH when you want to play Pete a little bit and put him a little bit at DH over the next few years. I don't think he's an exactly good fit. Now, if you don't sign Bellinger and you don't sign Pete, then I could say, then you could bring in a Schwarber. But right now, I don't see him as a fit. I really don't. I don't see him as a fit for this club. John Carlos says Mets need help at first base, outfield, starting pitching. Diaz to close. Other than that, they're great. And I also feel that they could probably use a third baseman. I'm not sold 100% on Beatty being the third baseman every day. And the Mets' next guy in line in terms of the minor leagues, he's not quite ready yet. Jacob Reimer is not ready yet. So, the Mets are kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place with what they have at third. And I would move Vientos. I don't think he really has a position here, especially if one of the criteria is you have to find a guy that can play defense. They've already set the mark in terms of the infield is that they improved the range on the infield by bringing in Simeon. He's already going to make Lindor a better shortstop, and which, by the way, he had a bad year defensively. Francisco Lindor, he had a terrible year defensively. He had a good year offensively, terrible year. Terrible year defensively, and he's been great here defensively. Great. For the last 3 years before last year. Big Mall, it's at 9:21. Baseball is the best. It is the best. It is the best. Now, please, of course, like this video. And if you're watching on replay, leave comments in the comments section. Got a lot of people here tonight. I'll be back again tomorrow. Probably a little bit later than now. I wanted to come on earlier, but I kind of I was at the doctor's office today. Nothing major, but just a sort of a had to get a physical today. I didn't know it. Everything came out good, but so I would have came on earlier. So tomorrow we'll come on later with the show, probably around 9:30ish, and we'll be on a lot. We'll be on pretty late. That's why there weren't any videos today, is because I was out for late in the afternoon. So that's why I didn't have any videos up for you. But that's why there were no shorts on, no videos on. I had videos on the other channels, but those are videos I did last night and the last few days. But you know, the Mets have a lot of work to do. They've done a lot of work so far. They changed the entire coaching staff, as you know, and they need to do a lot of work here, just in terms of personality of this team. Bringing in guys that have won in other places is a good start. You know, Simeon winning the World Series is a good thing. Bellinger winning with the Dodgers is a good thing. Playing in New York is a good thing. It's great that we have a AAA team in the New York Yankees and our wonderful AAA manager, Aaron Boone, to help out, to develop these players. I had done a video on Baseball 2 making fun of Craig Carter. We'll be doing a lot of that over the next few months because he's going to be a wonderful target. I mean, he's going to be a wonderful topic. Absolute wonderful target. And topic for people to chew on, because a lot of people don't like him. The host likes him because he's probably going to make the Baseball Hit 3 monetized, but as Master of Coin says, Hut, can we ask about the new computer? What type are you going to buy, and how much further are you away from purchasing it? Oh my God. You know what? It's quite a ways away, folks. You know, because I do have a mortgage, which is, I would mention that the house, the down payment was paid by about 80% of what I made on here. So, you know, the other reason why I have this house is you guys watching the videos, sending me super chats, becoming members of the channel. That's been a way to sort of help me purchase this house. This was the goal when I started doing videos on 2018. It took me a long time. And I had to go through a lot of different other genres to get to this point. But what I need now from you is, and it's not nearly going to be as much money, as I need you watching the videos. I need you to go and check out the products we have on the channel. If you see any kind of things popping up about different companies coming up, like Home Depot or different companies, I saw it a little while ago on my phone. Please go in there and buy it. I get a commission. So every little thing like that goes into the account that I have with Google, and I will get a new computer. Now, this is actually not bad the way I have it set up here. I don't know if there's an echo, because this is a pretty big room. This is my living room. I have a vaulted ceiling here, so I don't know how it sounds. But, you know, if you want to help me out, just the best thing you do is watch the videos as much as you can. Leave comments, leave likes. But, you know, the super thanks help. Super chats help. Becoming members, buying products. It is Christmas time. And I'm sure that, you know, and I had this. Now, I would mention this hat. This is a hat I had made off of Amazon. It came out great. It came from China. And I have the dark cut hat in the other room. But, you know, those are the things you could do. I have plenty of hats on there, different kinds of hats. And, you know, if you're interested, that's what I have on there. But that's the best way I can describe it. You know, I want to be able to make enough money to where I get a quality computer. I know the Apple computer is pretty good because the Apple computer has all the sort of editing video editing on it already. This computer doesn't have that, and I've had a very difficult time downloading stuff on here because this is a Google Chrome. I got a lot out of this computer, so I can never complain about it. But if people want to know, that's what's going on. But anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about the Mets. So Peter Alonso's thinking that he's going to. I said this. It's pie in the sky if he thinks he's going to get 7 years. I said that a few weeks ago, and he still thinks it because he's listening to the Scott Boras. And Scott Boras, he failed him last year. And Scott Boras, it's funny, he's very successful. He got the contract that they wanted to get for Juan Soto. But Juan Soto, as you can see, what he did this past season, the guy did a lot. You can see the improvement in his game. He became a base stealer. He led the league in stolen bases. Did you know that? He tied for 38 stolen bases, which is very low for a stolen base total, but he's led the league in stolen bases. Still counts. And you see the improvements, and he got better and better and better as the season went on. What Boras doesn't understand with some of the players that he's represented, specifically Pete Alonso, and of course Michael Conforto was just the more infamous one, is that the Mets offered him to go back to 2021. Before that season, the Mets offered Michael a 5-year, $100 million contract, and he didn't take it. Okay? He didn't take it. And look what happened to his career. Basically fell apart. Got hurt. Had a terrible 2021. So he didn't have a good year. Had a terrible free agent year. 2022, doesn't sign anybody, gets hurt. 23 and 24, he plays the Giants. He basically does nothing. And in this past year, even though he won a World Series with the Dodgers, was there all year, was basically a non-player. And that's a shame. And I blame Boras for that. Because he should have taken that contract from the Mets, not knowing his own value as a player. And of course, that's what happened. Yeah, he's got nothing. And now Pete has gone down that same road. And he would have been... Now, with him, there's a lot more value with Pete than Conforto. Because Pete has got tremendous power. He's got legendary power. Okay? But with Pete, he did base the same thing. He listened to Boras. The Mets did talk to him about an extension. He listened to Boras. He has a terrible 2024. It looked terrible. Then something clicked during the postseason. He started hitting the ball to opposite field again. He had a tremendous... Then he struggled. Now he's struggling to find a contract again. Now we have a situation where he thinks he's going to get 7 years based off the good year he had this past year. And, of course, the problem is he's not a good defensive first baseman. He's average at best. Okay? And the defensive metrics, I guess he's declining as a player. And now we have a situation where he thinks he's going to get 7 years at 31 years old. That's not going to happen. That's not happening. It's just not happening. And that's his own fault for listening to Boras. If you want to stay here, stay here. I do understand. I think he moved out of Long Island. I think he wants to have his son, I guess, maybe closer to Florida. I would hope that he comes back. Now, there is less of a market this year for him than it was last year for him. And the other team in this mix is the Red Sox. The Red Sox had a good year this past year. They went to the postseason when it didn't look like they were going anywhere. They made the trade. They traded Devers out of there. The attitude completely changed once they moved him. And there we go. But Pete needs to understand he's not getting more than 3 years from the team. The Mets aren't budging off of that. There's nothing wrong with a 3-year deal. What he makes being a lifelong Met, possibly getting in the Hall of Fame, possibly playing with the Mets his whole career, getting in the Hall of Fame as a Met, that is invaluable. There is no market for him. And the Red Sox can shift to other places. Like I said, Devers got traded, the whole team changed because they took this big contract off their backs. because that was a terrible contract anyway. He's not a good defensive player. And I guess his attitude was lousy. But that's where we stand with Pete. So he's going to come back in 3 years, or he's going to struggle. It's going to take him forever to get a fourth year, a fifth year from a team. I don't see the Red Sox doing that. The Mets will give him a lot of money. I don't think the money is the issue. I don't think the money is an issue at all. Now we know what Pete can do. Is the greatest home run hitter in Mets history, and if he doesn't stay, he will break like a weird trivia question when it comes to the Mets, and that trivia question is, who are the 6 Mets to go to win the Rookie of the Year and then play for the World Series for the Mets? Only one player has not done that, and that would be Pete Alonso. Every player that ever won the Rookie of the Year for the Mets all played in the World Series for the Mets. And Pete would be the first not to do that. That's an odd kind of trivia question that I have. But that's it. Now, I talked a lot about Francisco Lindor. I was not happy with the situation with Soto. I didn't like reading that Soto's all about winning. He's all about doing the job and going home. That's fine. And then in the same breath, whoever said this, and Lindor is all about fashion. And I'm thinking, what? Shouldn't it be about winning? And shouldn't it be about winning that day and winning that week and winning that month? Whatever that person said, I thought that was very, very strange kind of comment. Very strange. Not something you see every day. That's for sure. And now we have Simeon here to play second. The biggest issue with him is his age. He can't change that. So we'll see how he produces. Mets do have a lot of depth behind him if they're not traded. So if there are days where they need to give him off, they can do that. I know that he missed like 30-something games this past year. I don't know what the injury situation was. But we'll keep an eye on that. Morphman, what's up, Morphman? Morphman evolved. How you doing, buddy? Haven't seen you in a long time. No, it's sitting in his rocking chair. The rate I'm going, I will be in the rocking chair. We'll be rocking chairs. Talking about the Mets. I will say I'm not going anywhere. Talking about the Mets I got planned to do this for the next 25 years, so I don't expect to be going anywhere. But talking about our favorite team, America's team, here from the hut. Probably sit in a retirement home in about 25 years. God help me. I used to go to a retirement home with my lady friend because went to go see her mother all the time. And me and her, dealing with that kind of stuff. I'm the kind of person that makes fun of everything. I think you kind of learned that about me watching my videos. If it doesn't move, I will make fun of it. Even if it does move, I'll make fun of it. Okay? Worst thing to do is have me go to the nursing home with these poor people that are like old and their minds are shot. And they're talking gibberish. I'm going to start beating it. That's all I need is some punk kid in the nursing home, seeing me talking about I'm the amazing, spectacular, terrific. I'm doing good there, Mothman. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you what, I'm doing pretty good. But the worst thing for me is in a place like that, because then I can't help myself. And then I'm with the person that likes the same kind of humor, and we're both doing it and repeating these poor people. And then the one woman the one time I went to the nurse, this is a couple years ago, where she's kept screaming that she's in terrible pain. This was going on for like 20 minutes. Anyway, like I said about third base, I could see I wouldn't have a problem with them improving there at third. I'm probably stuck with Beatty there for now until Reamer's ready in the minor leagues. He's in Double A right now. I know a lot of people are very, very high on him. So we'll see. I'm not the biggest fan of Beatty. You sure about that? Oh my God. Yeah, it'd be a cold day in hell when that happens. Have Mets management or players contacted you to thank you for your support? No way. No way, man. You kidding me? No way. No. Nope. For what? Why would they do that? Unless I were to meet them. They got not old Shea State. They throw me off the upper deck the way I talk about the club. You know. No, no. You sure about that? No. No, I am sure about that. No, they haven't talked to me. They haven't asked me anything. Maybe I would get into the meetings before Keith will. I want to be in the meetings with the analytics. Uh-huh. But, the Mets don't have a left fielder right now because they traded Brandon Nimmo. They really don't have a center fielder because Jose Siri was a disaster. They brought back Tyrone Taylor, but he's not really an everyday player. They're kind of waiting on Carson Benj. We got the big guy out in right field for now. He is just a tremendous player. And you can see that he worked extremely hard to improve his play. From stealing bases, I didn't think he was as bad of an outfielder. He has his moments where he struggles. I think a lot of it. I don't think his reads are very good. I don't think he sees the ball well in the outfield. Just from what I could tell. All right, but he has a very strong arm, and he's much faster than I thought he was in terms of on the bases. Let's see here. You have to buy me a studio. I mean, I could turn the garage into a studio, but there's no heat out there. I wouldn't mind turning my garage into the studio, but there's no heat in there. I have an actual garage with a lot of shit. Nothing. My car's not in there. The Hutmobile's not out there. I would like to have the studio in the garage. The problem is, it's just that the garage needs a lot of work. It doesn't have any heat, and it wouldn't be a great place to do in the summertime because it would be like 1,000 degrees in there. Now on the pitching side, we'll start with the bullpen. We have really one reliable arm out there going into the offseason. That's Brooks Raley, who came back from his injury and he pitched really well. So the Mets are very strong there, which I'm happy about with him. There's no problems from him at all. And obviously, they brought in Devin Williams. We'll see how he is, but a lot is going to depend on what happens with Diaz and whether Diaz returns. If Diaz returns, it's going to be very strong in the bullpen. But I've said this. I said this in comments and places that we have to stop looking at winning the offseason. Okay. Last year the Mets won the offseason. Look where it got them. 2 off seasons ago, they didn't win the offseason. They went to Game 6 of the NLCS. So you have to sort of keep in mind that you want to have a good offseason, but it's not the panacea. It's not the be-all and end-all. You can't sort of say, well, they signed so-and-so and this guy. I mean, we've been down this road so many times. You sure about that? Says they should reach out to you. They are lacking in community outreach. They don't care about me. And I'm so busy with work. It's very difficult for me to get to the ballpark. And I don't live around the corner anymore. I used to be able to get to the ballpark in 10 minutes without a problem. Just take the Hutmobile and be there in 10 minutes. Now it's a little bit different. Now it'd take me like an hour to get there by car. So it's, I live out all out the sticks, but it's great out here. It's quiet. There's no like noise from every different language possible. You sure about that? This is a community outreach topic for another time. Yeah, okay. Then who's going to watch? You. That's great. You're going to watch, but nobody else will watch. But, and here's the thing about bullpens is that they're very difficult to bring in guys that you're going to make trades for and you're going to sign them. So you got to be very smart about the guys you bring in. You don't want to get stuck with these long-term deals. That's why Devin Williams got to be very careful with. They didn't get too crazy with the money with him, and they deferred some of the money, which was smart. Uh, uh, so that's something the Mets have to be very careful. And I mean, really, most of the time, the best bullpens are the ones you build within your organization, because you want to have guys here that have been starters in the past. That's usually how the best bullpens are. The best bullpens are when you have guys that have been starters in the past in the minor leagues, and they become relievers. Mariano Rivera is a classic example of that. I think Billy Wagner wasn't. He was not a starter. We know that John Franco was a starter with the Dodgers in their minor league system before he got traded to the Reds, and he got traded to and he had some starts, I think, with the Reds at the beginning of his career. But the very few pitchers start out as pure relievers. Randy Myers was a pure reliever until I think he might have had a couple starts. Rick Aguilera, if you go back far enough, he was a big reliever in the American League, but he started with the Mets as a starter. So a lot of times it's about managing a guy that has two really good pitchers and a third pitcher that's okay. You can start him, but then a lot of times you throw him in the bullpen, they become stars like say Dennis Eckersley. That's another great example. Or the other guy that's like him, that's John Smoltz. Now, the Mets have some young players that they can bring in to be in the bullpen, but these guys got to develop. I thought when they brought up Dylan Ross the last 3 games of the season was very unfair to him. That wasn't good. I think that's not a good move. And he has some issues with his command. So that's a situation where I'd like to see the new pitching coach have a hand in that situation. But we'll see. I'm just glad Hefner's out of here. What the hell I got on? I got college football, Ohio State versus Indiana. Ohio State 10-6 in the second quarter. If you want to know what game's going on in college football. Now the starting pitching. Mets have Clay Holmes out there. Clay Holmes has a ton of value. Clay Holmes could really. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and I think it's his option. He had an excellent season this past year with the Mets. The fact that he stayed healthy, he made all his starts. The Mets should be very proud of the job that he did, and it was really their idea to put him in the bullpen. And he should be proud of the job he did because he did a terrific job. I would hope. The thing is with him is that if he continues to pitch like that, then you keep him in the rotation. But you have such a great option with him that you can put him in the bullpen too. So that's one thing I like about him. And of course, we had Nolan McLean, the other big player and prospect. The Mets have from Oklahoma State, another two-way player. He's got great stuff. I mean, and he looks so polished for a kid that had not really pitched on a regular basis up until June of last year, July of last year. It tells you how smart he is as a player, how smart he is as a person. See how he has developed so quickly in such a short amount of time. So it was just tremendous. He's got tremendous ability, tremendous stuff, and he's very athletic. He's going to win a Gold Glove if he becomes a regular starter because he's very athletic. He's very not a lot of balls get past him on the mound. So he's going to be a tremendous player to watch for a very long time if he stays healthy. And that's always the trick with these guys because they throw very hard and they throw very nasty breaking stuff. Now, of course, please like this video and hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. David Peterson, we will see what happens with him. Okay, if Skubal's back on the market now after being taken off the market, he's going to be a centerpiece part of the Mets trade for him. Jed Williams, Brandon Sproat, Jonah Tong, and whomever else, other than McNeil, and Bench. Every other player that are available should be available in a trade for them. Cody Senga. People have been throwing him under the bus. The guy pitched great the first half of the season. And then he's like one of these thoroughbreds. If he's got a broken leg or has a problem, he wants to be shot. He wants to be put out of his misery. And he's a guy that expect him to get traded because I think they kind of got tired of him. They're tired of his attitude. But I think if he goes to the team, I think he's going to pitch well if he stays healthy. Now, I would mention he got less money than what he wanted because he has a history. He had a history in Japan of these kind of injuries. So we kind of know what we got when the Mets got him, that he has these injury issues. So where he'll miss time. And like I said, the Mets have a lot of holes in this rotation. The two guys really three guys I have in this rotation that I can really depend on is Peterson, Holmes, and to a lesser extent, McNeil. McNeil because he's younger. Also, we have Sean Manaea. Now, Sean Manaea pitched great for the last half of this 2024 season. But last year, he basically pitched like he's pitched in his career. That's how he pitched. And, over the course of his career when he's pitched poorly. It's how poorly he pitched in the second half of the Mets. I don't know what to expect. He's the one guy I don't know what to expect. I don't know what to expect when it comes to Manaea. That's the one thing I could say about Sean Manaea. I don't know what to expect from him. Even if he's healthy, I don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? Who's this? Not good guess of Pacifica. Dodgers are gonna get Skubal for Glasnow Hernandez and two top minor leaguers. Okay, who are the minor leaguers? Okay, who are the two minor leaguers? Dodger fan. What's it like having a Dodger that's a gambler and a possible PED user? I would mention about Ohtani. He's one of the worst base runners I've seen for a player of that level. My goodness, he's a terrible base runner. Terrible base runner. He steals a lot of bases, but in terms of his instincts around the bases, he's not. You don't pay him to run the bases. I saw pictures of him in 2018. He's a very small-looking guy. And then, like 7 years later, he's all jacked up. And nobody questions how he has this ability of, having this ability to bounce back after pitching and then hitting a home run and doing the kind of things that he does. And nobody questions it. It's like the steroid era over again. PLL 1927 says, did you enjoy Justin Verlander's time here, despite how short it was? We didn't get to know Kate Hudson. We didn't get to know Kate Upton. We didn't really get to know her too much. We saw her a little bit here and a little bit there. Oh, you mean her husband? He pitched okay. They had such a terrible June. In 2023. I did not get tired of watching him pitch, but you could tell that, missing spring training and missing the time he had, it hurt his ability to do better. I didn't think his stuff was all that bad, but, he hung a lot of pitches, gave a lot more home runs than he did. He walked a lot of batters, which is an indictment of the pitching coach. Again, it's one of those things that I like Verlander as a pitcher. He's one of the great all-time pitchers. But obviously, when you bring in a pitcher that's past his prime, and then he has these injuries, it's tough to get the motor running. It's like an old car. Once you get that motor running, it takes a while for it to heat up. And I think it took him a while to heat up. I kind of figured he'd pitch. Well, he's pitched fairly good since he left the Mets. He's not as good as he was, but you know what you're getting out of him. And him, it's just about compiling numbers with him. But I wish the Mets had gotten him years ago, but the Mets weren't in the market for a pitcher like him. And plus, they lost to Jacob deGrom, and they had to sort of find somebody to replace him. You know. But so going back and looking at this rotation, McLean is not a definite in terms of what they expect. I think people sort of saying that, and I think putting the pressure on him, saying he's the ace, I thought it was a bit much. I thought what the Mets did with their 3 on pitchers down the stretch was unfair. I did those are kinds of moves that a desperate young general manager does, not a general manager that's been here, that's been in the in the majors as a front office guy for 10 years. The fact that he did that, I thought that did not speak well of Stearns. Okay, that's not thinking of looking ahead for things. And if there was a problem, he wasn't looking forward. Okay, kind of did it out of desperation. And you can see the development of some of these pitchers. And I watched a lot of games on SMY this summer because they played a lot of the games on, a lot of the minor league games, which is great to watch. I saw a lot of Sproat's starts, McLean starts. I was not impressed with McLean in some of the minors. Okay, and he pitched great when he got here. Okay, sometimes pitchers stuff goes up. The stuff gets better when you get to the majors. But sometimes the minor league situation drags pitchers down. I was not all that impressed with Sproat, to be honest with you. I thought he's very inconsistent. Now, the 4 or 5 starts I saw of Jonah Tong, I wasn't impressed at all. Okay, he needs more development. I thought the Mets completely rushed him just based off of what I saw. I mean, he struggled in that first game to get through 5 innings. Okay. So I was not happy about what I saw from him. And I thought that he came across as extremely immature as a person, that he needed more seasoning in the minor leagues, a hell of a lot more seasoning, because there's an immaturity there around him. Okay, I don't know him, but that's my impression. Okay, McLean comes across as very mature. Sproat comes across to me very mature. Well, he pitched 4 years in college in Florida. So you see the maturity, you see them, these guys have had the opportunity to play in big games in college. This is a kid from Canada and Jonah Tong. Okay, and you can see that he's very close to his mother, just based on her being on the broadcast when he pitched. That showed me a lot. It tells me that he's a mama's boy. He's close to his mother. She probably babies him. It's not a terrible thing, but it's not something you want to see on the field. And I thought that was probably the case with him. And plus, he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's never really pitched in big games. He's never pitched in front of big crowds. And you could see that he was overwhelmed by the situation. Is his stuff good? It's okay from what I saw. But when he's struggling to throw strikes, and he has a history in the minor leagues of his command. In 2022 and 2023, he struggled with his command in the minors. Okay. Last year, the command came around, and he pitched much better. He was throwing strikes. Same thing as this year. But when he got to the majors, you saw the lack of command there. So that is the one thing I do know about him from what I saw, is that he's got a lot of growing up to do. And he's got a lot of things that have to be developed much better in the minor leagues. And if the Mets can flip him for a great pitcher like Skubal, you do it. I have no more patience for any kind of development here. That's the one thing we have to sort of understand. Okay? This team was built in a certain way, and the fact they had to go to these young guys, I thought it was very, like I said, very unfair to not only to their futures, but to the future of this ball club and their development. You know, so that's the one thing I can say about what I saw this past year with the pitching staff. But the biggest thing, obviously, is getting rid of Hefner, because Hefner was not doing a good job in terms of getting these guys to throw strikes. You know, and the lack of getting ahead in the count, the lack of throwing strikes, obviously is a major problem. And I'm happy that the Mets recognized that, and they got rid of Hefner. This isn't a situation where Hefner had the 1 year this past year, and where he struggled, to have his staff to throw strikes. We saw this in 2024. We saw this in 2023. This goes back to 2020 when he became the pitching coach. Got to get these guys to throw strikes. If you don't throw strikes, you have no shot. Simple as that. And that's how it is. Oh, let me get into this before I end the stream, because we're going to talk a lot about this tomorrow. And this is about the Hall of Fame. They're going to have the Hall of Fame Veterans Committee, the Era Committee, and we got some really big name players on this list. The fact that it's happened where these guys are not in the Hall of Fame is an indictment on the writers. And there are players that aren't on this list that I think are Hall of Famers. Albert Bell is a Hall of Famer, okay? And he never got a sniff, just as an aside. But the first name, and he has a good shot to get in, is Donnie Baseball, and that's Don Mattingly. Now, Mattingly gets in, okay? That means that Keith Hernandez is one step closer to getting in around the next round. I mean, think about it. Keith's in his 70s now. Keith should not be not with us anymore, or not with it anymore, and he gets in the Hall of Fame. Look what they did to Dave Parker. Dave Parker was a Hall of Famer, okay? Richie Allen was a Hall of Fame player. And they waited until these guys got sick, or they waited till these guys died to put them in. Dick Allen was a Hall of Famer. Okay, you go through his numbers, he's a Hall of Famer. Guy was a dominant player. Same thing with Dave Parker. Dave Parker was probably the best player in the 70s in the National League. Okay, won 2 batting titles, had a great arm, was on a great team. The guy was a terrific player for over 10 years. There was no reason why Dave Parker shouldn't have been in the Hall of Fame. And then they finally got him in, and he died. When they should have put him in at least 20 years ago. Okay? Don Mattingly, another guy who was probably the dominant player in the American League in the mid-1980s. Look at all the players that get into the NFL's Hall of Fame. And they don't play, a lot of them don't play 10 years. And you see guys that are in the Hall of Fame that are not Hall of Fame players. Is Harold Baines a Hall of Famer? Did you ever say to yourself, you know what? Harold Baines is an MVP. Now, he never won an MVP. He wasn't like the best player on his team. The guy was a designated hitter. He was an outfield in the beginning of his career, and then became a DH in the middle of his career. The guy was around 25 years. He's a compiler. Then you have other players that were probably better players than him you don't even hear about. I'll give you a name. I was looking at his numbers. Rusty Staub. Rusty was a great player. Okay? One of the smart players of his era. Probably one of the smarter players in baseball when he played. Got no sniff. No sniff. And he's long gone. Jeff Kent. He's another guy. I am not the biggest Jeff Kent fan. Because when he was with the Mets, I went to Philadelphia with Old Man Hutt when he was still with the Mets, and he was very nasty to some fans that wanted his autograph. You're on the road, man. Just sign some autographs for 2 or 3 fans that are there to see you. So I know he was an asshole. Okay. As a player, he's probably a Hall of Famer, but as a person, I can't put him in just based on how rude he is. Dale Murphy. Dale Murphy was probably the best player of the 80s in the National League. He certainly was one of the best outfielders in the National League. Two-time MVP. The things that hurt him is that he only played in postseason one time in '82 with the Braves. But from 1980 to 1987, I think that's a long enough period to be considered a Hall of Famer. Okay, and there's probably a good shot he'll get in this time around. I think he's got a very good shot. He's got a very, very good shot. Fernando Valenzuela, he's on this thing. I don't think Fernando's going to get in. As I was looking at his numbers, and as great of a height as he was, as popular as he was, I don't think it's a Hall of Fame career. Just based on the overall numbers, I don't think he has 2 wins in his career. I'm not 100% sure on that. I have to look that up. But he's not a guy that has 200 wins. He does have a no-hitter. All right. Venezuela threw more innings from ages 20 to 25 than every pitcher over the past 105 years except Burt Blyleven. But that's the problem. It's such a short period of time. It's the beginning of his career, the very beginning of his career. There's the rest of my list. Barry Bonds is on that list. Okay? Barry should be in. I don't have to talk about him. We know how great he was. I don't care about the steroids. Roger Clemens, same thing. He never failed tests. I'm not the biggest Clemens fan. I think he's an asshole. But his numbers are. And I would say this, Carlos Delgado, he's another guy that got overlooked by the writers. They never forgave him for not talking to Ed Coleman after a game. And that's a big reason why he's not in. This is a guy that, if you look at his numbers, I mean, one of the great sluggers in the American League, in the early 2000s. And he doesn't get a sniff. I like to see him get in. Now, we do have some players that are holdovers on the ballot. And we won't know about that for another month. But we got Carlos Beltran. I think he's going to get in. I think that's pretty obvious. He'll go in as a Met. Andrew Jones, he's probably going to get in. Chase Utley, who's a dick. I don't use that word lightly. He's got 39% of the vote. It'll be interesting to see where he goes on this. He's not going to get in this year, but it'll be interesting to see where his percentage is. A-Rod, 37%. I put A-Rod in. Okay. Manny Ramirez. Manny Ramirez, see what his percentages is. We know about his story with the steroids. Andy Pettitte, another steroid guy. He's still on the ballot. I'm surprised. I don't see him as a Hall of Famer. Felix Hernandez. He's still on the ballot. He's on the second year. I'm surprised he didn't get more percentage points his first year on the ballot. David Wright's on this list. He's got 8.1% of the vote. It will be interesting to see where he finishes this year. I hope he stays on the ballot. London ELG says if you could pick a player the Mets will get, who would it be and then what the means? Who they get? I say Cody Bellinger. That's the guy. That's the guy I see them getting. It's Cody Bellinger. Or Framber Valdez. So, those are the two guys. You didn't ask me two guys. You asked me one guy. But I'll tell you one guy. Yeah, that's the guy. Cody Bellinger. I think we're going to have some signings here. I don't think this is not going to be a slow market like it was last year and the last few years. And I think there'll be some trades. I hope. Now, I will be back in tomorrow. Like I said, I'll be back tomorrow later, probably 9:30ish. We'll see how I feel. And then I'll be home on Monday. I'll be home on Monday. We'll see what happens on Monday. But I'll be live here at the hut, doing live streams. I wish I could do a live stream outside, but it's gonna be really cold here Monday. I would love to do a live stream. I did a live stream last year outside. That worked out really nice. Uh, PAA says the winter meetings is Sunday to Tuesday, right? No, it's Monday to Wednesday. But the teams start skulking in. They start coming in on Sunday, and the media will be there Sunday. 6:30 SNY. They'll have their little show from, I guess, the winter meetings. But I'll be on much later. I would say this: if you're on social media, the best times to follow stuff, and this is just a general thing, if there's any kind of news or you want to hear about some kind of like trades, start paying attention to what happens after 9 o'clock. Every day, 9 o'clock in the morning is the beginning of the business day, which is obvious. That's the time of day when you want to start following Major League Baseball. Start on Monday. You start on Monday following along with what's going on social media. That's the perfect time. It's 9 a.m. Silly Mazzilli 86. Framber, I believe, will be acquired by the Mets. Yeah, I think so too. Valdez and Bellinger. Unless he goes to Baltimore. But 9 a.m. is the time you want to start paying attention on social media, especially if you're on X, because that's when the media starts doing their work. That's when the business day starts. So 9 a.m. And I'll probably be up that day. I don't have much to do on Monday. I'm very busy here today. A lot more busy than I wanted to be, believe me. Just seeing where I was about 5 hours ago. Hooked up the machines. God, what the hell was I thinking? What was I thinking? What I was thinking, I guess, is I want to keep doing this show for another 25 years, I guess. But we'll have a show tomorrow night. I'll be out most of the day, I will mention. I should be back here at the hut around 4 o'clock. If there's any kind of trades tomorrow, any kind of signings, I'll do the best I can to do a video. But I'm always up early during the weekends a lot of times. London asked me, do you think Skubal gets traded? I didn't think a couple days ago, but I think now he's going to get moved. He's definitely going to get moved. And they said that the likelihood, the media is saying tonight that the likelihood is that he's going to be traded. And that's what's going to happen. That's how it's going to be. There's no reason to keep the guy. He's going to leave after this year. So they have two options. The Tigers have two options, okay? Or three options, I guess. You do things on the fringes. You keep Skubal on your team. You get the postseason. You come up short, okay? You lose him. You get draft picks for him. That's the first option. Second option is you go all in. You sign Alex Bregman. You do everything you have to do to really improve your team. Maybe you bring in a closer. Maybe you go after Edwin Diaz. And you go with the attitude that we're going to go for it this year, this last year's Skubal. Now that has options too. Either you go to the World Series or you don't. You make the postseason or you don't. If you don't, then it's a failure. But you're better off probably taking a shot in that situation than if you just let him play out the 1 year and do things on the fringes. Or you trade him to a team that has talent, young talent, and has talent that you can put into particularly your rotation and particularly young everyday players. And hope that your smart manager, your good manager, is able to navigate that team to postseason, which is what he did 2 years ago. So that's the options the Tigers have. So it's more a 30% chance he gets traded because you have three options there with the Tigers. You go with him, you do very little. You go with him, you bring in all these other players, and you let him walk anyway, or you trade him. but we'll see. I would mention, I did see earlier that Edwin Diaz doesn't seem that the Dodgers are all that interested in Diaz. So I would mention that. I saw that a little while ago. But we'll see. I mean, they do have a closer. They got Tanner Scott there. I don't know what happened to him. What happened to that guy? Did he get hurt during the season? I didn't see him at all in the postseason. I didn't even talk about him. It'd be interesting to see where Robert Suarez goes because he's the other big closer on this market. But he's older and he's pitched in a small market in San Diego. You know. Well, I'm going to end the live stream because I'm getting tired. I got stuff to do. Got to take a shower. I know that's what you wanted to hear. But I hope you enjoyed the live stream, and I enjoyed doing it. We'll be back tomorrow. I'll be back tomorrow, probably around 9:30, hopefully, and hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about. There's always stuff to talk about, you know. Ran to the gambit. I did not do my list though of players that are going to get traded because I'm running out of time here for myself. But I'll also mention. Maybe I'll put the link in. Put the link in for the Baseball Hut 3 because the channel I want to get that to 100 subscribers. And I enjoy doing videos on WFN and on the media. So let me post. Hold on a second. Let me post the link into the Baseball Hut 3. Okay, please go in there and subscribe. I'd love to get to 100 subscribers. I'm very happy that that channel has done as well as it has. Extremely happy with it because I wasn't sure where that channel was going to go. Okay. And I'd like to thank WFAN for their insanity because I can't do it without them. And I'll have videos there tomorrow on the Baseball Hut 3. I'll have a video on this former ex-employee of ESPN talking about sort of lack of creativity at the network. And then, of course, I'll have another video on Craig Carton and how it seems kind of weird that WFN is going back to a retread again, and that seems to be like the knock on sports talk is that they don't do anything new, they don't do anything innovative anymore. They do the same things over and over and over again. So I have a video on that. We're close to 90 subscribers. Please again hit that link. Hit the link for the Baseball Hut 3. And of course, I want to thank you for watching the video. Thank you for watching the live stream. We'll be back in tomorrow. Probably no videos for tomorrow because it's late now for me. But I'll be back tomorrow. If something happens, I'll do a video for you, and then we'll be live here from the hut. So thank everybody. I want to thank everyone that's come in here tonight. And if you're watching on replay, I'll leave comments in the comments section. Who's going to sign Cody? Bellinger? Where's Pete Alonso going to go? Where's Framber Valdez going to go? Is Edwin Diaz coming back to the Mets? You tell me what you think in the comments section. And again, I'll be back in tomorrow. Thank you, everybody, and have a good night, and I'll see you later.